If you're moving to Cebu, there's a 90% chance that you're about to make the same 3 app mistakes every foreigner makes in the first 3 months. In this video, I'll be showing you every single app that I use here living in Cebu City. Hi, my name is Trinidad. I'm 24 years old and I've been living in Cebu City for the past 4 years. I make videos to help foreigners figure out if Cebu City is a place that they actually want to live or just simply visit. The content that I make on this channel can be either informational or entertainment or a mix of both. So let's get into the video. If I were to compress all the apps that I use on a day-to-day basis to only 3, these are my top 3 that I would choose. First one is Gcash. Think of it like Venmo, your Cash App, your Apple Pay. You are able to scan and also receive money through QR payments. It's used everywhere from restaurants to 7-Elevens to pharmacies, local markets, cafes, restaurants, what have you. Whatever you think of in terms of like paying for some type of service or products, you're able to pay with this app. Another thing that this is famously used for is paying bills such as your electric, your internet services, water, rent. And a key hack that I found, I think maybe like a year after living here, is that you're able to connect your Gcash through your Wise account. So the way you do this, if you aren't familiar with Wise, it's something that I would actually be discussing a little bit later in this video. But it's another favorite app of mine as well, but it's not my top 3. For you to be fully verified, you need to have a Filipino phone number and then some type of government ID, whether it's a driver's license, a student license, or a passport. If you don't have these things, then you're simply not able to use Gcash. And if you're living in big hub cities like Cebu, Davao, or Manila, you're kind of missing out on something that you're able to simply pay electrically instead of paying with physical cash, assuming that you don't want to use a lot of cash or you don't like carrying a lot of cash. So that's the only limitation, and I would only suggest you getting Gcash if you plan on staying here more than for a month. Now, Gcash can be a hit and miss in terms of usefulness outside of the city. So what I mean by this is if you go to like provincial areas, then yeah, you're gonna have to heavily rely on cash because internet probably is not the best. They do get a percentage on every transaction that you do at a sari store or at a restaurant or a cafe. Those places heavily rely on cash, and that's why you should also bring cash with you if you are planning to leave the city. In the city, you can also use like your debit cards, your credit cards. There's a lot of ATMs in these areas as well. So just keep that in mind when you are using Gcash and the limitations that you have. Okay, the second app that is very popular amongst people around my age and a little bit older is taxi motor apps. I mentioned this briefly in another video. You guys can watch it right here. It's basically just a day in the life. This is the best way, in my opinion, to get around the city. But there's a lot of taxi motor apps. The one that I personally choose on an everyday basis is called Move It. I was able to use Joyride, Angkas, Maxim. For me, in my experience, I felt like Move It was the cheapest out of all of those 4 apps. But you could also just download all of them and see which one has the best rates. And another key trick that I actually found out that what a lot of people do around here is when it's like during peak traffic hour times, all my friends, they use like all 4 apps at the same time, and whichever one books first or is the closest to them, that's the one that they go for. If you just want to stick to one app, try all of them, see which one you like the best in terms of the services and how cheap it is. Just to give you a comparison in terms of price, I live here in Cebu Business Park, and for me to go to IT Park, it'll cost me 50 to 54 pesos depending on traffic hours, versus flagging down a taxi, which will cost me 90 to 95 pesos. You'll be saving yourself some money over time. Maybe it doesn't seem like that if you're just doing it for 1 ride or 2 rides throughout the city, but if you're commuting every single day, that 40 peso difference adds up over time. The other thing on why I chose Move It out of all the other taxi motor apps is that they actually installed a new feature where it shows you the jeepney routes. And if you watch Filipino content, you would probably see this in other people's videos, but it's basically like these long buses that are crammed with a lot of people. And just to give you guys a price comparison, so as I mentioned earlier, it would cost me 50 to 54 pesos to get from Cebu Business Park to IT Park. But if you were to take a jeepney doing the same distance, it'll cost you maybe 12 pesos. But it'll take you a lot longer to get there, like maybe 20 minutes. That feature that I mentioned earlier shows you the jeepney routes. It's a simple app that you can just download on your phone, put in your information such as your name, your email, and then you're good to go. You don't have to do anything else, and you can start using it immediately. You can also play around with all of these apps. You know, you could save recent locations that you constantly go to. For me, it's either my house, school, or the gym. The third and final app that I use on a day-to-day basis, it's Facebook and Messenger. This one shocked me probably the most out of all the other apps that is in this video. I would have never thought that a country such as the Philippines would heavily rely on Facebook and Messenger for anything they could think of, from businesses, from government departments and offices, to group chats with your friends, with your colleagues at work. There's even a dating app on Facebook, which a lot of Filipinos now use. It was just such a culture shock to me. Kind of use it like your Google here in the Philippines. That's how I like to think of it as. When people give off their contact information, you always see like their Messenger or their Facebook page on there, because that's how they actually get people to come in as clients. Since I come from the States, a lot of people, in terms of how they communicate in a professional setting, it's normally like Slack or Microsoft Tools or Google Tools. But here, no. If you want to send out an email, you're probably not going to get a response back, or if you do, it's going to be heavily delayed. Versus if you were to message someone on Messenger, you get instant messages from them, and then they'll contact you whenever they actually have time. Okay, in terms of money and banking, I use Wise. If you guys are interested in Wise, I have that linked in the description. I heavily use that whenever I want to wire money from my US bank to my Filipino bank. And it has probably the cheapest rates in terms of conversion fees compared to the other types of apps. Before Wise, I was doing the expensive route by actually just bank transferring or wiring money from my US bank to my Filipino bank, and it would take me a lot longer for me to receive that money, and it would pay a lot more fees. Just know that the more money that you do transfer, the longer it'll take for it to hit your other bank account. An example, if I were to just send a quick $100 to my Filipino bank, it'll take within less than 10 minutes. But if it's something that I'm spending like around $2,500, then it'll probably take like 3 to 4 business days. They're affiliated with all the name brand banks that you're probably familiar with, so you shouldn't have a big issue in terms of connecting them to your Filipino bank. That you can also connect your Gcash, but one of the key information is your phone number. After you're able to connect it like that, then you have to verify it as well, and then once you verify it, then it's connected properly, and then voila, you're able to send money directly to your Gcash from Wise. So the bank that I chose to partner up with is Charles Schwab. And the reason why I think I found this one to be the most useful in terms of living outside of the country is one particular feature. One, yeah, you can have like an investment banking account and you're able to like trade with stock. The other key perk that I found very useful is that they will reimburse you every time you go to an ATM and withdraw money. They don't do this with every single transaction, but they do this all collectively once at the end of every month. So if you're not in the Philippines yet or haven't signed up to the Charles Schwab account and you're already still in the States, then I would highly recommend signing up with them, looking into some of the programs that they have. Now you have two options. So the first one is you don't open up a Filipino account and you just heavily rely on your partner. That's the first option. The second option is that you actually do invest into opening up an account here. For you to do that, there is an entire process. One of them is you have to put a deposit down. I forgot how much it is, but the reason why I have a BPI account is because of my internship, and then that is how they were able to pay us for the time that we were interning at CLI. And since then, using it, I feel like it's very simple. It's easy to open up an account with them, and it's very accessible online. Like, I didn't have the physical card for maybe 2 to 3 weeks, and I was still able to pay things with QR codes. So QR codes is a big thing in terms of how people pay here for whatever type of service or product that you are trying to purchase. The top 3 Filipino banks are BDO, BPI, MyBank/GoTime. The last 2 are more of a digital bank. But out of these 3 local banks here in the Philippines, I would say BDO is the biggest and most well-known established bank. They have so many branches, so many ATMs that it's easily accessible in any area besides, the big business districts such as CBP and also Cebu IT Park. Now, before we get into the next section of the video, I just want to take this time to tell you guys about the Cebu Foreigner Guide that I have created. Basically comprises all the knowledge that I have acquired in the past 4 years since I've been living here, and it is a guide that I would want to have known before stepping foot in the Philippines. It covers cost of living, what areas to live in, the apps to use on a day-to-day basis, the different visa applications that you can apply, and everything else that you can think of in a step-by-step format. So if you guys are interested in what I have to say about all these different categories that really matter to foreigners when it comes to living outside of their home country, then definitely check that out in the link to the description. There are several ways of doing this. The first one is if you are a short-term tourist, like anything less than, I would say, 3 months. You could use Klook, which not only does it have like your flights, your hotels, your accommodations all on the same app, but it also gives you the option of downloading data. So when you are traveling at these other countries, you're connected online. Airolo is more focused simply on the data portion. So like you're able to preload data and then it gives you like an eSIM and then you're able to connect online. However, if you are a foreigner that is planning to live in the Philippines for more than 1 month, I would say like 3 months, 6 months, a year and plus, I would suggest you partner up with Gomo. That's the one that I'm actually currently using. For you to get started, you do have to pay for the physical eSIM yourself, and then you put it inside of your eSIM tray, whether it's an iPhone or an Android phone. Once you actually get the physical eSIM, they will give you instruction manual on how to set it up on the app. And once you actually open up an account, you're able to look at your gigabytes, and then there's different bundles that you can actually purchase inside the app, and you can connect to your debit, credit card, or Gcash. And the bundle that I normally go for is called the 30 gigabyte no expiry bundle. There's other different bundles that you can choose from in their shop section. Now, the 30 gigabytes I think is the most that you can purchase on the app, and it really depends on how long it can last you. It can last you maybe 2 weeks, a month, maybe even longer than that. I've seen people that are able to use 30 gigabytes and it lasts them 90 days, which is 3 months. So it really depends on how conservative you are. In terms of conservating your data or load, the way that I like to do it is I actually turn off my cellular data connection whenever I'm not at the house. So when I'm at the house or when I'm out in public, I hop on their Wi-Fi connection instead of using my cellular data. That's one way that a lot of people do here, is that they turn off their data when they're out and about, and then they turn it back on when they want to use online features such as scrolling through Instagram, searching up something, what have you. So there are two main companies that a lot of people like to go back and forth from. It's either Globe or Smart, or also known as PLDT. I would say for the first 3 years, I was using Globe heavily, and it is so bad. During the day, I would say maybe from like 5 a.m. to maybe 2 p.m. it's really good connection. But anything after that, if I'm streaming like TV services on my laptop, oh my god, the connection is so bad. Sometimes I would get so frustrated with like it loading every 3 seconds that I would just not watch TV at night anymore and just go surf through my phone, because it is that bad. And it wasn't only until recently that I switched to PLDT, and it's way better. I get mixed reviews from like friends. Some people say like Globe is so much better than PLDT, and then vice versa. For me, where I live in Cebu Business Park in Solanea Towers, I would say that a majority of the residents use PLDT. That tells you something. It's definitely way easier and faster to streamline anything, and later at night I have no issues as well. Let me know in the comment section, do you guys prefer PLDT, Globe? And then give me your personal experience with one of these two companies. Now, the two main apps that a lot of people use here in Cebu City is Food Panda and Grab. Grab is basically the Uber of Asia. You're able to order your groceries through there, food delivery, and also taxis. The other one is Food Panda. This one is specifically just for food. Sometimes this one is more popularized among other restaurants versus Grab. I think they have a less commission fee than Grab, because I feel like Grab is a bit bigger. Food Panda, I think, has a lot more options, and they have a lot more deals that you can collect, whether it's ordering your coffee, pastries, food. The other thing that I really like about the taxi motor and the Grab transportation services is that you can actually share your details of the ride to other people. So if you feel a little bit unsafe, then you can say like, hey, this is where I'm gonna go, and then you just save the link, you send it to your person, and then they can track the entire duration of the ride, and then they can text you like, hey, did you make it there or not? So that's another cool safety feature that I really like about the taxi apps and also the Grab app. So if you are a person that has a lot of health issues, or you're a frequent visitor at a hospital, I think this one will save you a lot of time and effort and money, especially because some of the medical bills, they will add up over time, right? So that's something that you really can't avoid. It's your health. You want to make sure that you're alive and well, so you don't have to become a frequent visitor. The only two apps that I found really useful here is Now Serving and High Precision. So Now Serving is a telecommunication app within the medical field. You're able to go in this app, you're able to find specialists in whatever area that you have an issue with, One thing that I really like about the Philippines is that compared to the States, when you have like some type of health issue, you have to first go to a generalist doctor, and then they tell you afterwards, after the consultation, where you need to go. Here, you can skip the first part and go directly to a person that you're having an issue with. The different type of specialists inside of the medical fields, you can search them by that, and then it has all the main hub hospitals and then also the contact of the person. Now you have two options once you start getting into the consultation section, is you can either find them in person or you can book them online, and then you can pay them through debit, credit, or Gcash as well. Now the consultation fee really depends on how much time that they've been in that field and also their credentials as well. So obviously the more credentials they have, the more that they can back up a pricier consultation fee. I've seen people that charge from little as like 300 to 500 pesos, and then some as high as 1,000 plus pesos. So it really depends. And then after the consultation fee, sometimes they'll actually make you go to the hospital, and then they, have the whole profile of the doctor. You can read all their credentials as well and see which one that you kind of just resonate more with. I do remember that there was a comment from one of my subscribers, and he was saying that he had a very hard time finding a really good cardiologist, and he had to go through like maybe 3 to 4 plus doctors just to find the one that really resonated with him, which is, I think, normal for someone. If you're really picky on like who you want and the type of service that you want, then you kind of do have to filter out through some of the doctors here. That's if you plan on living here for an extensive amount of time, and it's worth your investment to find a really high qualified doctor. Now, High Precision is actually a diagnostic wellness center here. It's very popular. I think it's a cheaper option than going to these hospitals. So for an example, I had a recent hospital visit. I went to Changhua Medical Mall, and for whatever services that I was going to go for, they were going to charge me double the amount that I actually paid at High Precision. I think a lot of people actually do that. They go to these like well-established hospitals such as Changhua and also CDU or Cebu doctors. They get the diagnosis from these professionals, and then once it comes to like the medical payment, because you pay that after your consultation, they go to other places like High Precision. And what I really like about High Precision as well is that once you actually get your results, you can download the app and then you can get the online results. You don't have to physically go to the hospital yourself and then pick up your stuff. Although there are some things that are a little bit more confidential that they actually prefer you to go in person to pick up, and they will not release it online. It really depends on what you are getting tested for. I did an x-ray. They weren't allowing me to get the x-ray online. I had to physically go there and get it and then go back to the doctor and then have the person explain to me if I'm healthy or not. But yeah, Now Serving condenses all the information that you want in terms of like the hospitals, the different doctors, the specialists, everything that you can think of in terms of like medical services you could find on there. And it actually helps you filter out which doctors are good versus the ones that are not good. And it also just saves you time from like searching for whatever you're trying to find if you were to go in person. Because what I found out when living here for this long, a lot of these people at these health clinics, they don't know where a lot of things are. Yeah, I actually had to rely on some of the guards because the guards know more information than some of the employees, which is very strange to me, but it's the Philippines. I can't do nothing about it. So we're just going to leave it like that. If there are other apps that you have also discovered that are very useful in terms of your health and also medical related issues, or any of the other sections that I have covered in this video, please also let me know in the comment section. I do like to know how else I can make my life better and easier while living here in Cebu or in the Philippines. Now we're going to talk about shopping, and there's only two apps that you should really focus on. First one is Lazada and Shopee. The reason why I would prioritize Lazada over Shopee is that it's already more established. It's an app that's used in Southeast Asian countries like Vietnam, Thailand, and the Philippines. And my Filipino friends, for bigger purchases in the electronics section, such as laptop, branded items, you should shop with Lazada versus Shopee. Think of Shopee like the Shein, and then think of Lazada as the Amazon of Asia. But actually, you can shop with Amazon here in the Philippines, but the only requirement is that it has to be a purchase of something that is more than $100. If it's anything less than that, I think Amazon's not going to consider it worth the investment to ship you something. That is an option that you have. It's just going to take a lot longer for you to get your order compared to Lazada and Shopee, which are more closer to the Philippines. Lazada is established with all of these brands like Logitech, MacBook, Samsung. So for big purchases like that, that's something that is worth the investment. I would actually cater towards Lazada versus Shopee. For Shopee, I feel like it's for cheaper options, like household appliances. This rig that I'm actually using for my whole setup is called Booyah, and I actually got it from Shopee, and it's actually pretty good quality. However, there's one thing that I did not figure out until maybe 3 years living in the Philippines, is that you cannot have Lazada or Shopee on your phone if your phone is not in the region of the Philippines or Southeast Asian countries. And I actually found out how to get those apps on your phone, because if your phone is from the States, those apps that I just mentioned are not going to show up in your app store at all. So the way you do this, if you're an Apple user, I don't know what it is for Android, but it probably has the same type of system. But you go to your app store, you go to your profile, then you go to the country/region section, and then change the region that your phone is automatically defaulted to, which is from the country that you purchased the phone from. And then you go to, for us, I guess you would say the Philippines. It's not going to do anything to your phone. It's just going to change the region that your phone is located at. And then once you do that, then you're able to search for those apps, and then they should pop up and you're able to download them. Because before I discovered that, what I was heavily relying on, I like my friends to like order things for me, and I would just Gcash them money or give them physical cash. And there's actually 2 ways of paying here: credit card, debit card, or your Gcash or your bank transfer. And then the other option is cash on delivery, or COD. If you do cash on delivery, the only bad thing that really annoys me is I had to physically be there or have someone give you the cash in order for you to get your package. There has been so many scenarios where I was not home, and it's either like in the morning, in the afternoon. It doesn't specify when they're going to be there. They just tells you like, hey, you're going to have a package on this day, just be ready all day. And sometimes I have to leave the house, whether it's going to school, going to a cafe, or what have you. And then they actually arrive at my house, they call me and text me, and I'm not there, and then they just leave, and then I have to wait the next day to do the whole process again until I actually get my package. That's the only headache that I have with COD. But if you're home all the time, you should have no issue. Or if you have someone that can pick it up for you, then that's also not a problem. And that's for either Lazada or Shopee. Now, this could either work for domestic travel or international travel within Southeast Asia. So here are the 3 apps. You have Klook, Agoda, and Cebu Pacific. Klook I like the most out of this entire section, simply because it has everything that you can think of when it comes to your travel essentials. Booking of the hotel, your itinerary, your flight tickets, and also your eSIMs, as I mentioned earlier. And the cool thing about it is that if you are a content creator or you often travel, you can actually use their Klook creator program. You know, you get like a commission if someone uses your affiliate link, for an example. Or if you're a frequent traveler, then you get some like Klook points that you could use to purchase something in the future. The next one is Agoda. It's the same thing as Klook, but I feel like it's a little bit more premium. I found a lot better deals on Klook than Agoda, but it has the same type of, you know, essential features as Klook. When I use Agoda, I think of it mainly like Airbnb, just like way cheaper. And then the last one is Cebu Pacific. When I went to Thailand, I was able to get my tickets for far cheaper if I were to go on booking.com, Google Flights, or these other platforms that you're able to buy your airplane tickets from. And the cool thing is that it has a mobile app, so it's more accessible. What I really like about Cebu Pacific is that they have the One Paseo sale. So there's like heavily discounted plane tickets on, you know, local areas in Southeast Asia that you could get for like maybe 25 to 75% off. It really depends on how good you are at budgeting, but a lot of people don't really use it for domestic travel because, believe it or not, doing domestic travel is a bit more expensive than if you were to just go to like Thailand or Vietnam. The one downside that I really don't like about Cebu Pacific is that they price gouge you on every single item. So there's one charge for your seat, there's another for your luggage, there's another for your travel insurance. They will charge you a separate transaction fee, and if you don't have the insurance, and if you miss your flight or what have you, you will not get any credit back, or they won't even reimburse you for your money. So do take that into consideration if you are traveling with this company. Please get their insurance because it will help you long term. Their customer service is not the most useful either. So that's all I have to say for that, but just keep that in mind when you are traveling with Cebu Pacific. Well, that is the entire list of all the apps that I can think of that you will need to make sure that your life here in the Philippines is as easy and frictionless as possible. If you have made it to the end of this video, I really want to take the time to thank you for watching this entire video. And as I mentioned earlier, I did make a full step-by-step instructional guide on living here in the Philippines. It covers from your living expenses, what areas to live in, what apps to have on your phone, the different visa applications that you can apply as a foreigner living in the Philippines. It's all linked in the description. And if this video helped you, support the channel by subscribing, because I help foreigners make the decision if they want to live here long-term in Cebu City or just only visit. I cover content ranging from traveling to cost of living and the entertainment section on what I do on a day-to-day basis as a 24-year-old. So if you want to see more of my face and what I do here at Cebu City, then I have 2 videos that you can watch right here, and you can also look in my channel to see the other types of videos that I make. And see you guys in the next one.